The Commonwealth Games are coming to India for the very first time, giving Indian competitors a chance to show the world what they can do. One of the most eagerly anticipated and well-attended events is the Rugby Sevens. Being the host nation, India will get the opportunity to test themselves against some of the biggest names in the sport. Across Asia, rugby is gaining in popularity. 40 years ago, the Asian Rugby Football Union had only 8 members. That figure now stands at 26. I wanted to know how the sport's growing in India. Could it challenge cricket as the #1 sport? And what impact the Commonwealth Games is having. The first recorded rugby match in India took place on Christmas Day 1872. It was played between England and a combined team of Scotland, Ireland and Wales. Rugby didn't begin to really capture the imagination of the country until the formation of the Indian Rugby Football Union in 1968, and more recently, India becoming an official member of the International Rugby Board in 2001. In 2008, the International Rugby Board appointed a development manager, New Zealander Greg Davey. He told me about his role and how the IRB helps to promote the game in India.
Really, the role I had when I arrived was one of putting some infrastructure in place, putting some processes in place in line with best practice and what other major playing nations are doing. Also developing the staff and the development people on board and increasing that number to a level that was sustainable. We have another fund that's called a Major Market Fund from the IRB, and that is for targeted countries, of which India is one, obviously because of the huge population and the potential for rugby. So we alongside countries such as Mexico and China have special attention financially from the IRB, and that covers things like our PR company, the running of various awareness exercises and events such as tournaments, and also covers a few other things that we need funding for that we wouldn't be able to do unless we had it.
One club whose numbers have grown in recent years are the Jungle Crows, a team coached and co-founded by ex-British diplomat Paul Walsh.
Jungle Crows started as a fun project, just a group of friends having a bit of a laugh, enjoying a bit of rugby. And I suppose it's still about fun, still about enjoying rugby, but we found that it has a kind of wide impact on a lot of the young people that play and train with us. So it's developed from not just a kind of rugby club to something more that's a kind of social project. Yeah, I think that rugby is poised to take off in India. I think that a lot of what's held it back a lot has been that whereas other sports, cricket, soccer, is played widely and by everyone, rugby kept as a kind of an exclusive sport. The two main sort of stalwart clubs, CCFC, Bombay Gymkhana, private members clubs, you can't just walk in. And I think that to a certain extent restricted the accessibility and how the game was promoted. I think now that's changing. I think the new clubs, even the existing clubs, realise that if they're to carry on, if they're to grow, and if the sport is to grow, then they have to reach out to wider communities. We have no facilities. We have some rugby balls, and that's it. We have some cones, and we come and practice on a field. I suppose my dream would be one day to meet someone very rich on an airplane and convince him to build me a rugby field. But until that happens, we'll keep training and we'll keep working hard to make sure we're a very competitive team, but also that the children and the young people that train with us get a better opportunity as a result of being part of the Jungle Crows.
I watched the Crows take on a team who don't have the same problems with resources, Calcutta CFC, a club steeped in rugby history. It's the oldest surviving rugby club outside of the UK. and gave birth to the Calcutta Cup, a game played between England and Scotland which has taken place annually for the past 130 years. Paul Walsh watched on as his side defeated their more illustrious neighbours. Another team who suffer from a lack of facilities are the Delhi Lions. They're trained by Junjun Basin on his own farmland on the outskirts of Delhi. The team are a mixture of expats currently living in Delhi and local lads, some with little or no experience of ever playing the game before. After meeting and watching these two sides in different areas of the country, it became clear to me that the opportunity to play the game simply wouldn't exist without the commitment and passion for the sport from a small number of individuals. The sport needs these people supporting the grassroots, developing and nurturing new talent, who maybe one day will represent their country. A Lions player gave me his views on the current national side.
India was for the past 5 years sitting back in 85th spot, and for the past 6 months they have put on the money, and the Indian team has been going abroad continuously for past 6 months. They are like going to New Zealand for their training sessions, and you can see the result now. India is in 72nd position. They have beat China 94-0. They did well with Philippines in Asian 5 Nations, so pretty good. It's pretty good. It's getting up slowly, but we have to get more funds and more support for the team.
The issue of facilities could be no clearer than in Pune, where the national team were training on an athletic stadium which had one glaring problem: no posts. After being admitted to the IRB in 2001, it took the team 3 years to win their first match, beating arch rivals Pakistan 56-3. They're currently ranked 72nd out of 95 teams in the world. They face a daunting task during the Rugby Sevens at the Commonwealth Games, after being drawn in a group with international powerhouses Tonga, Wales and South Africa. The captain, Nasser Hussain, explained how they've benefited from additional IRB funding.
In terms of the national side, in the last year and a half, we've had tours to South Africa, New Zealand. We're hopefully going to England soon, and they've been really beneficial. We've got great exposure and experience on these tours. Within the country, there's been huge development happening. Number of clubs have increased, well, in fact, threefold in the last few years. We've got women playing rugby. The women's national team is going to be at the Asian Games this year. So there's been a huge boost to the sport.
In scenes reminiscent of the origins of the game, a group of children who were playing football at the stadium began throwing the ball to each other after one decided to pick it up, perhaps the latest converts to the sport. If they're looking for inspiration, they should look no further than Sailen Tudu. He's currently playing for the national side after only starting to play rugby a few years ago. I believe it's stories like his which could inspire a new generation of young players.
I used to play football when I was in school. Then once I find out people are playing rugby, like I didn't know that that's rugby or something. I found like people are playing with some egg ball, some weird safer ball, and then I was watching them from outside. Then one of them invited me to join, said if you want to come and play with us, and that was my start. Like, and I didn't know any rule or anything about rugby. Then I asked them what I have to do. They said just whenever you get the ball, just run. And I started running. That was my start. Like, you know, now I'm speaking English. Before playing rugby, when I started rugby, I didn't know what is hi or hello mean. If you say me hi to do hello, I will walk past you. I didn't know what does that mean. English came from rugby. It taught me a lot. Like, I never been to anywhere except my village and my town, hometown. That's all. But after that, rugby took me to the all over world. I've been to England, France, Dubai. I've been Malaysia. I've been Pakistan. Playing in abroad, a lot from rugby. It will never end if I explain.
Tudu's been given a scholarship in Gloucester at Hartbury College.
When I went there, and I was the smallest guy there because I was like 62 kg, and it was pretty physical. So I thought, yeah, I must put on weight. That after a few months, I put on 8 kilogram with the English food, no protein, and been to the gym like 4 or 5 days a week. And I got into it. I played every weekend, every Saturday.
For any sport to grow, it needs young people to fall in love with it. Greg Davey told me how he thought young people could be encouraged to play.
Full recognition at the Ministry of Youth and Sports, that would go a long way to seeing rugby as part of the sporting curriculum in schools. If we do that, there will be 100, 200,000. The number is actually unbelievable, the potential.
But what can rugby offer the young people of India?
I really enjoy rugby. I'm passionate about the sport, but I'm also very passionate and committed about what rugby can do for young people. I think that some of the lessons that rugby teaches about discipline, about teamwork, are really valuable. And if we can harness that learning, and the children can learn in a friendly and sporting environment, and they can learn those good lessons, it's really positive.
Jean-Paul Dubois is a volunteer from France. He helps train children at an NGO in Calcutta.
Doesn't matter, I think, so the caste or the religion, they just want to play rugby, and maybe we can federate everyone with the rugby, and that is really important, because there are many guys coming from any township or any slums. They're coming there only for play rugby, and that's it. I think it's my way to think about the rugby when I'm talking about solidarity. It's really important. I mean, if you haven't solidarity in the field, you cannot play a good rugby. You cannot enjoy it. You cannot be brave. You cannot, many things, you cannot win. So that's why I think so. Solidarity must be the first thing to make it in India. You see what I mean? It's really important.
Don Bosco Ashaliam is a charity which was set up in 1985. Ashaliam translates as the Homes of Hope. They work to improve the lives of India's vast number of homeless, neglected and working children. The children are provided with food and shelter in a home-like environment which aims to break down the lack of trust they have for adults. They're also provided with educational and vocational training. Seeing the children from Don Bosco Ashaliam playing rugby and speaking to the volunteers, it became clear to me that perhaps rugby could be the sport which could transcend caste boundaries. I'd argue a sport like rugby relies on teamwork far more than one such as cricket, which is so often influenced by individual performances. Can the Commonwealth Games be the inspiration for rugby to push on in India and gain a bigger following?
The development program is carried on whether we've got Commonwealth Games or not. So yes, it may improve the numbers, but realistically that'll only be a short-term fix. What it needs is a consistent and long-term approach to the development program, ensuring that there are people on board who are able to train, people on board who are able to coach the growing and increasing numbers that we have coming to the sport.
It'll be huge in terms of media and in terms of just exposure for the sport, and people not just in India, across the world will know that India plays rugby. So it'll be fantastic for us.
Commonwealth Games has had a huge impact on rugby in India. I don't necessarily think it's all good. I think that the facilities that have been developed in Delhi have been fantastic. But on October 13th, the day after the Sevens finish, they'll all be turned into cricket fields. So we lose those fantastic facilities. I hope that the momentum that's been created because of extra funding for the Commonwealth Games, I hope that the interest that's generated when people see India playing in the Commonwealth Games, I hope that interest can be a catalyst for a real, even more development in Indian rugby.
Rugby challenging cricket as the #1 sport in India seems impossible. However, with the right investment in facilities and the further introduction of the game into schools, with a population of 1.1 billion, India could easily become the largest rugby playing nation in the world.
Touch and pause, engage.